Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Alumni Bearcat Chats. Such a pleasure to be joined by Rose Barre, the Executive Director of Sales, Service, and Business Strategies for the New York Yankees, a proud graduate of Binghamton University in 2006. Rose, thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's start. That title is certainly a high-ranking one, but for the casual fan that follows baseball on a day-to-day basis, take me through what your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah, day to day is seasonally day to day. Day to day is evolving every day. I think in baseball and in professional sports, you think that it's a more focused sort of title, but on a broad scale, my focus is everything from pricing our building to overseeing strategies to make sure that it's priced to sell, and then putting butts in seats. And from a season ticket holder group suite standpoint, and then making sure that the game day experience is a positive one for our fans once they're here, so that on game day entails everything from improving and reviewing what the flow looks like coming into the stadium, just evaluating all of everything from lines and making sure that we have fast access to various parts of the stadium, what that flow looks like. So it's a pretty broad scope, but primarily focused on what the experience is for our season ticket holders, people who purchase large groups or suites within a game day.
And that's certainly, it's amazing. And I think it's only expanded the different experiences that a fan can have going to the game, and particularly in a group. How do you sort of customize those experiences depending on the client?
Yeah, well, look, Jacob, I think it's different for every fan, and we try to make sure that depending on the reason in which that fan might be coming out, or those fans may be coming out, we hit experiential things, because the reality is there's a lot of places to purchase tickets, and we want to make sure you're not just purchasing a ticket when you come to Yankee Stadium, but also there's an experiential element. So when I started here in 2010, we really started ramping up. That was the time when we transitioned to the new building, and we really started ramping up some of the experiential pieces, from on-field to the various parade days that we do for little leagues around the field. Some of these things have been added very recently, such as our parade days, to non-game day type of experiences around the city. So a wide range, and we're always looking for new things and to customize them based on what type of potential group or individual we might be working with, whether that's a company or a little league team.
Tell me, backtracking to growing up in Watertown, New York, and going to Binghamton for softball. Take me through Watertown, just about an hour and 10 minutes north of Syracuse, a little south of the Thousand Islands. How did you find Binghamton?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Binghamton found me a little bit. I was really lucky to have had a family that I played softball and traveled around with a little bit, who went to Binghamton, and got the opportunity to be seen as a softball athlete coming out of General Brown High School. And I think it was luck, good timing, and a great family that kind of helped me navigate the college recruiting process and be seen by a college coach. So I'm really lucky in that way. I was my first one in my family to go away to college, and was given the opportunity through athletics at Binghamton. And that's the reason I love, kind of doing some of this stuff and talking to Binghamton. I'm really passionate about giving back, because I think, ultimately, I didn't see a path to professional sports until I had the opportunity at Binghamton and had some great mentorship, some great leaders there. And most importantly, my undergraduate, where I really got to explore, not necessarily the specific education itself, though that's valuable, but the things I learned from the groups of people that I was able to interact with that were much different than the small town that I was from.
I know the softball program was just developing into a Division I program as you got there. What was that like?
Yeah, incredible. It was the best experience of my life. And immediately had a group of friends that I was able to interact with, was able to travel all over, the East Coast. Was a young Division I program, but, frankly, I didn't care about that at the time. For someone coming out of a small town, it was like, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to get an education, and how am I going to advance to the next level? And again, I go back to like the group of people that I was able to interact with at Binghamton, the experiences I was able to have as an athlete. I remember getting off that bus as a student athlete, and the parents standing outside. What a great experience, to be able to travel and experience some of those things in college, and then adding to the level of diversity that exists at Binghamton, and the students that I was able to interact with, the thought processes that were challenged in every classroom. I couldn't be more grateful for that experience at that time in my life.
You bring up some really important points as well, in that someone from a small town, that you bring up the, hey, how am I going to pay for college, being the first to go away, and Yankee Stadium can seem far away. Rather than someone that might have grown up right in the tri-state area. What's your message to anyone from a small town that's looking at Binghamton, that's saying, hey, I'm interested in professional sports, but it might not be in my immediate geographic proximity?
Yeah, at the time it was step by step, right? So at the
Yeah.
time it seemed so untouchable. I grew up as a kid who brought her Oakland Raiders football to recess every day and played football with the boys, and didn't see it as an attainable career goal. But the fortunate part is that, and I think my message would be, continue to explore what's inside you. I didn't know that the kid bringing her football to recess and writing letters to Don Mattingly with the Yankees from the Topps book and looking at the cards and how much they were worth, and writing letters to each of my favorite teams. I didn't know that was attainable, but I knew looking back in hindsight, what I knew is there was something that what I was passionate about there. And that continued to grow over time, and being surrounded by people who inspired me, starting, with my parents, and then moving into Binghamton, and having different influences that could kind of hit those internal motivations that I had, and then being guided to the path that I'm on now. So I would say the main thing is, when you grow up in a small town, there are beautiful things outside, and nothing against staying there, or the number of people who go back and do great things in the world, like becoming teachers. But if there's something more that isn't fulfilled, there are a lot of options that exist within professional sports in every single avenue that you could want to be fulfilled, from teaching and helping and supporting, from community efforts, from a sales standpoint, from a financial standpoint, all of the elements that go into our business.
Let's take it step by step, though. You worked in athletics for a few years after school. Did you know you wanted to go into the business side, and how did you get to the Islanders?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Jacob. I think it was at Binghamton, the final 2 years, where I decided to do my master's degree. And really the reason I stayed to do my master's degree was because I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was a human development major. In hindsight, I could always say I wish I would have gone to business school. I explored that a little bit, but ended up going into social sciences for my master's degree, and really lucky there that I was able to get a graduate assistantship in the athletics department. And my second year, Jason Siegel came to the university and became the associate athletic director, and really showed me the business side of sports that I didn't know existed. I thought at that point I wanted to be in collegiate sports, and I explored various avenues like the NCAA, and he brought me to the city, and he showed me the Devils. He toured us around a number of different venues. And I think that, that's something that leads me every day, and thinking it just opened up a possibility that I didn't know existed. And so I had the opportunity to interview. I remember I I slept in a hotel. I drove to Cleveland for my first interview. I slept in the car in the parking lot of the Cleveland Cavaliers for the interview the night before. And, because I didn't want to be late, and everything was riding on this one interview. I think they ended up offering, no, they didn't end up offering me. I also went on an interview with the Islanders, and took the job with the Islanders as a customer service rep. So it was really one mentor, a number of mentors in the athletics department, but one mentor that showed me the professional side of the sports business. And I fell in love with the thought process of working in professional sports. And we get a lot of fans that interview here, but it's one thing to be a fan, it's another thing, and it's a good thing to be a fan in this business. It's also a really good thing to be passionate about the business side itself that you're going into. And I didn't fully know what that meant at the time, but got to explore that in the first opportunity with the Islanders.
Director of Group and Inside Sales with the Islanders by the age of 25. Pretty good for a kid coming from Watertown in the big city.
Yeah, thank you. I was really lucky to have good mentors around me at the Islanders as well. There was a gentleman named Howard Safan who really took me under his wing, and I think he was pretty much at the Islanders at 5:00 in the morning, and I was there not long after him. And he saw the work that I put in. So it wasn't that I was super talented at 25. It was that he knew that I was trying to learn, and I would, back to your question on any advice, is that it's not the amount of time that you put into the office, it's the amount of time that you put into committing to being the best at something and learning the most you can as quickly as you can early in your career. And he gave me the opportunity to be a director at 25, and I was managing people I had no idea how to manage at that age. And that was really the eye-opening moment when I looked around and I was like, okay, where am I going? What am I being challenged by? This is the one experience that I have. I wasn't a good manager. I think when I made the transition to the Yankees, I learned what that meant. But the reason that I started to kind of interview soon after I became a director is because I wanted that new other experience, to become a better leader and learn how to be a better leader. So I interviewed with AEG Live for an inside sales manager position, and I got that opportunity and an offer out in LA. And then I came to the Yankees applying for the same exact job. We were building a sales team for the first time ever in 2010. After we won the World Series, we built a new building. The Yankees came back and offered me a sales position in a premium role. And I remember going to Jason, who's my Binghamton mentor at the time, and saying, hey, what do you think about this? I'm taking a step back. I'm a director. I'm going to go into a premium sales type of role. And he said, look, high risk, high reward. Do you believe in yourself? And if you fail, what's the worst that can happen? And I think that was the best advice. And I use that on every risk that I take. And if what the worst that can happen isn't that bad, then it's worth the risk. And so I took the jump to the Yankees. I moved into a premium sales role. And my thought process was, I'm 2 years into my career. Title doesn't matter. You can call me whatever I want, whatever you want, as long as I'm learning. And I wanted to learn to sell with the best in the business. And I couldn't be more grateful for that move. I think the one difference between what I learned at Binghamton and what I learned at the Islanders and what I learned at the Yankees was process versus results. And I think, we're very results focused at the Islanders, which drove various behaviors, and we were very behavior driven at the Yankees. Behavior values lead to results. They don't precede results. So I think that's been a really fun learning curve, and it has allowed me to align with a lot of people that I work with and be challenged by a lot of people that I work with, which is the reason I've been at the Yankees for 10 years.
Tell me, we talked about briefly your giving back to Binghamton. I know you've spoken at the Celebrating Women's Athletics Luncheon. I know you and John Hartrick were together at the Binghamton Hall of Fame event last fall. Tell me what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, the end goal, and I'll put this out into the universe, is to start a scholarship at Binghamton. It means everything. The opportunity that I was given, everyone can say it was earned, and I think that I I reciprocated I hope as much as what was given to me. But it's everything. I think I wouldn't have been in the position, forget about my career for a minute in my life and the opportunities that I've had to live in New York City, to own a home in New York City has been an aspiration. I can remember coming into the city and seeing people running down the West Side Highway and wanting to be that person. And now I'm that person. So I think it's about as much what I've been able to accomplish as a result of the experiences and the people who showed me the opportunity to work in professional sports and to fulfill something that, since I was a little kid, bringing my Oakland Raiders football, saying I was going to play for the Oakland Raiders, and seeing the other opportunities that existed to similarly fulfill that desire and unattainable goal, I think is everything. So yeah, I'm very passionate about giving back. I serve on the athletics board to understand keep up with what's going on with the university and try to contribute where I can. Various elements of the women's luncheon that the athletics department hosts. And then just financial donations, I think is as important. And then, my ultimate goal, both with the scholarship in my hometown and at Binghamton, is mentorship as much as it is financial commitment. It's a more challenging thing to figure out because mentorship has to go both ways. But that element is something I've been trying to work on.
And your story is a success story of mentorship, and someone taking an interest and exposing you to a whole different world that you wouldn't have known before. Are you still a Raiders fan?
I am. In fact, I have a little Sebastian Janikowski helmet.
Oh my goodness!
right behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to be a fan of any other team than the New York Yankees right now, but so I wouldn't say as diehard of writing down the names of every player and collecting their cards, but I certainly identify there just based on the history.
It's a different sport. You're safe, it's not you're not saying the Athletics, you're just saying the Raiders.
Yep, fair enough.
Well, Rose, thanks so much for the time, continued success. And I think I speak on behalf of the university and saying thanks for your mentorship and continued support.
Thank you, Jacob. And thank you for having me and for the willingness to host. And I'll just say to anyone else listening, if there's any Binghamton University friends, family, whatever it might be, that want to reach out and explore opportunities that didn't know existed, I would be willing to have a conversation. You can find me on LinkedIn.